Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about how to configure Neovim using Lazyvim for C++ and Python development. Neovim is one of the most popular command line-based IDE. It can not only be configured as powerful as the user interface-based VS Code IDE, but also very efficient and convenient for remote access via SSH. Especially if you work remotely on a server, it can achieve almost real-time response and navigate multiple files simultaneously. Here, this configuration via Lazyvim is only applied for C++ and Python development on Linux system. There are lots of customized setup can be configured later on when you become more familiar with the environment of Neovim. First of all, we need to highlight that we are working on Ubuntu 22.4 system. Before installing Neovim and Lazyvim, we need to install some necessary packages. For example, build essential, curl, cmake, gdb, wget and so on. After that, we also need to ensure that there is no pre-existing Neovim package and its configuration files in the system. Therefore, if you have installed Neovim before, we use app remove to it. Subsequently, we delete its configuration files for a clean installation. Besides these packages, we also need to install nerd fonts on Ubuntu system. In fact, Neovim and Lazyvim will still run smoothly, but weird symbols and file tree icon missing will appear while using Neovim, which is very annoying. Here, we start with creating a new Neovim terminal profile. We will use nerd font to display the content in Neovim. We will also use this terminal profile globally in Ubuntu. This decision is threefold. Number 1, this operation is simple and does not impact the other system setting much. Number 2, while accessing a remote machine via SSH and open Neovim, this local terminal profile containing nerd fonts can display the symbols in Neovim correctly on local machine. Number 3, nerd font is very popular among the programmers. As a hardcore user of Linux, using nerd font for daily operation is common and widely accepted. To do that, we first create a folder, nerdfonts, under home directory /local/share/font. We enter this folder and use the provided link to download and extract the source codes of nerdfont. Following that, we refresh the system font cache. In the next step, we assign the UUID of the default terminal profile to an environmental variable and do the same for the new terminal profile. Subsequently, we add the UUID of this new terminal profile into the profile list and copy all the settings in the default terminal profile into the new one. At this stage, we have created a new terminal profile for Neovim and will use nerdfont inside. Next, we name the new terminal profile as Neovim nerdfont. In order to make it work, we also need to disable the system font and use the nerdfont explicitly for the new terminal profile. If everything works, we will start extracting the UUID of all terminal profiles on the local host and identify which one belongs to the default one. Until this stage, sometimes you might find that Ubuntu system does not record the name we assigned to this new terminal profile. Hence, we need to rename the default and new terminal profiles again as default and Neovim nerdfont. In a command line, you need to change UUID into the one you extracted from the last two steps. Subsequently verify whether our renaming works. Finally, we set this new terminal profile as the default one on localhost. In the worst case, if we made some subtle mistakes in previous steps, you can always reset everything back using the command at the bottom of this page. Subsequently, we also need to install Git and Lazyvim. These are very important for the version control, especially if you work in a large project. First of all, we type in sudo apt install git to install Git globally in Ubuntu. After that, we go to tmp directory, download the latest Lazyvim topball, extract it, and install accordingly. Next, we will install the compiler and its related tools. Clang is a compiler that can compile CPP into executable files, replacing GCC/G++. Clang format is a code formatting tool that can automatically beautify /organize C/C++ code styles. Clang tidy is a static analysis tool that can automatically find potential bugs, memory leaks, style issues, and support repairs. Especially, memory leak is a very critical issue in C++ projects. although Clang and Clang format can be installed through Mason and Lazyvim. Here we recommend not only installing them globally through apt, but also installing them separately for Neovim through Mason. Hence, first of all, we use sudo apt install Clang format clang tidy to install these packages globally. Then we download the latest version of Neovim zip-image. The version must be greater than 0.90. Then we change the permissions of the current user so that the binary can be executed. Then copy the image to the local /bin/nvim folder in the user directory. In this way, Neovim is installed. Next, I will download Lazyvim and set up Neovim. When we open Neovim again, many packages are automatically loaded into Neovim via Mason and Lazyvim. But in some cases, Mason itself is not loaded into Neovim via Lazyvim by default, such as the example here, because we downloaded the starter version of Lazyvim. It is known that the philosophy of Lazyvim of its design is to load the minimal packages when needed. The starter version of Lazyvim is very close to the most streamlined version. The advantage of using the starter version is that we can conveniently expand it in future and include more customized setups. There will be no conflict in dependencies between packages due to many pre-built packages added by others. Consequently, we have to load Mason manually here. Now we need to create a file, named Mason Lua. Then we insert the following codes in red into Mason Lua. Once you reopen the Neovim, you will see Mason is automatically loaded into Neovim. Now we will include the configuration for LSB in Neovim. First of all, we create a file lsb lua in the user home directory, config/nvim/plugins. After that, we insert the following codes in red into the lsb lua file. Here, we will do the same for the configuration of formatting in Neovim. We create a file called format lua in the same directory and type in the following codes in red into this file. You should have noticed that we already included some key bindings in these configurations for convenience. Now, we will do the same to configure the debugging integration in Neovim. We create a file called appcpp lua in the same directory and type in the following codes in red into this file. These settings are to configure the debugging for Python development in Neovim. We create the configuration file .python lua and type in the corresponding codes in red here. So these settings in red are used to control the integration of Git in Neovim. Do the same for Git, like what we have done for LSB, C++, and Python integration. Here are the settings for the configuration of navigation in Neovim. Furthermore, these codes in red are the configuration for Python testing in Neovim. Do the same like what we did in the past. CMake is important in C++ development because it simplifies and standardizes the build process, especially for large, cross-platform projects. Therefore, integrating CMake in Neovim is very necessary for C++ development. We use the following codes to configure CMake via Lazyvim, as shown here. What we show here is about the configuration of Python virtual environment via Lazyvim. We create a file called venv lua in the same directory, similar to the other configuration files, and include the following codes in red. Here is about the configuration of trouble diagnostics via Lazyvim. We create a file called trouble lua in the same directory and include the following lines in red into this file. This page shows the configuration of session restore in Lazyvim. Similar to another configuration files, we create a new file called session lua in the same directory and type in the following lines in red in this file. Again, we do the same for the configuration of UI in Neovim via Lazyvim. This page shows the codes in red, which should be included into the configuration file called UI lua. Now, we have finished the installation of Node font, Neovim and its configuration via Lazyvim. Here, we prepare a summary of the key bindings inside the configuration files. There are mainly three ways to configure Neovim as a comprehensive IDE. Number 1, we can use the traditional Vim style configuration by creating a file called init.vim. Number 2, using the Lua-based configuration by creating configuration files starting with init Lua. However, we will have to manually type in each line in these configuration files. The bright side is that this is an effective way to explore the details of configuring Neovim. Number 3, it is the framework-based configuration, like what we do here using Lazyvim. Basically, Lazyvim is a set of Lua or Vim configurations of Neovim prepared for starters or professional programmers. The purpose of Lazyvim is to make starting point for people to get hang of operations in Neovim.